Israeli occupation forces shot to dead 2 Palestinian children under the age of 13 Monday morning near the Lions Gate in East Jerusalem, claiming they were hiding a knife in their pockets. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Ministry of Health announced that the death toll since the start of October reached 25 Palestinians, 14 in the West Bank and 11 in the Gaza Strip, with more than 1,300 injuries. 3 weeks of violence in Jerusalem and the West Bank have drawn hundreds of youth within the 1948 occupied territories and the Gaza Strip, raising fears that the unrest could develop to a full-scale uprising.
The situation in Jerusalem will not return as it was before after this uprising. The uprising was a cry for all the Palestinian people that they can no longer tolerate the occupation settlements, brutality, harassment of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and other violations, including its practices against our prisoners, our people, and our land. This continuously escalating uprising has different forms. It is developing towards a third intifada, despite the troubles that hinder it.
On the other hand, President of the Palestinian Authority Mahmoud Abbas instructed his security forces to take measures to restore calm, while Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused the Palestinian Authority of inciting the protesters and ordered the reinforcement of extra police troops in Jerusalem. Political analysts and observers say that although Israel hopes to drive the world's attention away from the escalation in Jerusalem by raising up tensions in Gaza, the Palestinian factions, including Hamas, do not seek any escalation of violence with the occupation state. Nur Harazin, teleSUR TV, Gaza.
This was the People's Climate Change Summit, a chance for those most affected by adverse weather to have their say. More than 2,000 people from more than 40 countries gathered in Bolivia to urge politicians to champion their calls for a cleaner, greener planet.
We welcome this proposal from Latin America. That's the way we can really defend and protect our Mother Nature.
Bolivia's President Evo Morales was joined by Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and Ecuador's President Rafael Correa. They came to listen to the solutions from some of the world's poorest people. All three attacked capitalism as being the root cause of climate change.
An inhabitant of a rich country emits 38 times more CO2 than an inhabitant of a poor country.
We have got rid of imperial domination with this neoliberal policy. This is the continuing struggle against imperialism, against capitalism.
Bolivia developed a 10-point plan to send to the Paris Climate Summit in November. It wants to create an environmental international court of justice to punish those nations that fail to act responsibly on climate change. 196 states will gather in Paris, including the largest emitters of greenhouse gases. The question many are asking here is, will they listen to the developing world? Ban Ki-moon says a transformative deal in Paris was in sight, but delegates here fear the developed nations will not honour a pledge of $100 billion a year to fight climate change by 2020. Their message is simple: act now to save the planet before it's too late.
With the Russian intervention in Syria into the third week, the last 24 hours saw raids against 86 extremist targets in the role of Idlib, Hama, Raqqa, Latakia and Aleppo. More than 50 Russian warplanes and helicopters are taking part.
During the last 24 hours, the aircraft carried out 88 raids against terrorists in the province of Raqqa and Hama, Idlib and Latakia and Aleppo, where the raids targeted command centers and ammunition stores, as well as plants for the production of explosives and camps for training terrorists.
The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, speaking before the Russian Parliament or Duma, said that Russia is interested in practical cooperation with Saudi Arabia and Turkey and other countries in the region in order to resolve the Syrian crisis. He added, "We are ready to cooperate very closely with all countries, including the countries that face the terrorist threat directly."
Russian airstrikes and the clear progress of Syrian troops on the ground has changed the balance of forces, in particular with Turkey and Saudi Arabia, which have been providing support to terrorists. Now we see terrorists fleeing to take refuge in Turkey, and Erdogan is seeking to set up a barrier.
Turkey, which has begun to see the collapse of its project in Syria through the rapid progress of the Syrian army backed by Russian jets, has now deployed a ground force backed by tanks to take over 100 square meters in the northern province of Idlib, under the pretext of sitting up above us soon. Hazem Abdullah, teleSUR, Syria.
Holly Sterling, the wife of Jeffrey Sterling, an ex-CIA agent who was sentenced to more than 3 years in prison for allegedly revealing confidential information about a mission that would undermine Iran's nuclear program, denounced in a press conference on Thursday the injustices her husband has suffered and asked President Obama for an immediate pardon based on his innocence.
The main FBI agent, Ashley Hunt, admitted during cross-examination she has no emails, she has no telephone recordings, she has nothing that can solidify or prove that Jeffrey had reported any classified information to James Risen. In fact, she said, I have just speculated that Jeffrey did this.
The FBI said that Jeffrey Sterling was the source for the New York Times journalist James Rice's book, State of War. Although, even though the case lacks evidence, Sterling is in prison.
The War on Whistleblowers is basically a way of shutting down people who are complaining about fraud, waste, abuse, and illegality by the U.S. government. And in fact, the people who have been prosecuted in the War on Whistleblowers have blown the whistle on torture, secret surveillance, and war crimes, the biggest scandals of our country.
Journalists present during the panel discussion said that the prosecution of whistleblowers is a direct violation of a constitutional right granted by the First Amendment.
It is so important to defend journalist sources and whistleblowers. It's because in the United States, almost all information related to national securities are secret and classified. So without whistleblowers, without government employees sharing concern with the press, the American public can only stick to the official version of the facts.
Is intelligent.
Sterling's wife, along with his supporters, announced that they will make an appeal on the case because they feel it is a violation of his human rights. Bianca Perez, teleSUR, Washington, D.C.
Due to the combination of a severe drought and a poor government response, Honduras is going through one of the worst agrarian crises in its history, which has caused 3.2 million Hondurans to go hungry. Small producers have created an alliance to defend the people's food right, to try and confront the situation.
We are training at a school of human rights for food, and we are also working on forming good practices that allow us to make proposals based on the ideas of the people. The problem of the drought won't be solved by decrees or laws. It is solved with concrete actions that are not politicized. We propose that the National Grains Reserve be decentralized. We have had good experience with communitarian grains reserves.
The producers have been demanding for 4 years a law for the protection of the right for food, but it still hasn't been discussed in Congress.
Trying to make sound so that the government gives us an opportunity to hear our message, to listen to our alternatives, but above all, they give an opportunity to the law for the fight for food, and that can be discussed, to have its own structure and can be put into practice.
Hunger in Honduras is affecting 40% of the population, and there is no real plan from the government. Small producer organizations are presenting alternatives that hopefully can be listened by the authorities. Gerardo Torres, teleSUR, Central America.